Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us on our website, horrormakesushappy.com. Before we get started, this is the trigger warning. This is a horror podcast, so we're going to be talking about horror things. So the conversation could involve such sensitive subjects such as murder, child abuse, rape, foul language. And with that out of the way, we can say bad language. Yay.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. That is our guest for today. But before we introduce you here, Steve, what do we have coming up in the near future?
We've still got about 10 people on the calendar, so won't go through listing names. But aside from that, we've got Chris's webcomic. Just got a new update. You can catch that at piecesofflesh.com. It is a necromantic cannibal horror story. And my book, A Guide to the Recovery Toolbox, has a coupon code LE69E at smashwords.com. You can pick it up for 99 cents between now and the end of the year. Today's guest is Stephanie Feldman, author of Saturnalia and the Angel of Losses. Welcome.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Yes.
Before we get into the meat of the interview, you want to let people know what you're currently working on?
Sure. Well, we're almost into Saturnalia season, my second Saturnalia season, and we're going to get into the book, but it's a winter solstice book. So I'm excited to be getting ready for that. Again, Saturnalia is also coming out from Verve Books in the UK on October 26th.
Nice.
So I'm gearing up for that UK publication. And I also have a short story for Halloween. My story, A Chorus of Albatwitches, is going to be reprinted online from Roadmap Magazine later in October. So I'm excited to share that too.
Nice.
What was the name of that one again?
A Chorus of Albatwitches.
And A Chorus of Albatwitch. Is that all one word?
Yeah.
Albatwitches?
Albatwitch is, yes, it's a Pennsylvania cryptid that I will never stop championing. So,
So is that like the name for the group of them? Like how there's a murder of crows and a conspiracy of...
Yeah. Well, that's the name I gave to them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like a new twist I have yet to hear on fictional writing. It's like developing your own name for a group because they have that in real life. Why not have it?
Yeah.
Albatwitch. That's a new one too.
Well, I don't know how much we've talked, outside this. I know I give you a handout at StokerCon, but the theme of the interview here is we break it into like 4 sections. The first 3 are talking about your fandom of horror-related stuff in your childhood, teen, and adult years. And then the 4th section is sort of a wrap-up where we talk about any common themes that may have occurred coming up in the other 3. So starting with childhood, what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Oh, I'll probably be like the millionth person to tell you this, but Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I remember that book so vividly. And of course, the illustrations in it. So I always loved spooky stories and ghost stories. And then when I got a little older, I was a big Christopher Pike fan. And then I graduated to Anne Rice. And that's really what I sort of grew up on. Those were like the formative books for me, or horror books anyway.
Was there particular scary stories to tell in the dark that stood out to you?
Well, I know everybody. Oh, who's a scarecrow? Harold. But, I really remember. I can't remember the name of the story, but there was the ghost that had the corpse that had coins over her eyes, and then the characters took away the coins, and then the ghost came back. I remember that one. Yeah.
What did you like about that one?
I can still see the image in my head of that ghost. I love a ghost. I'm not like a big gore person for horror, but I love a ghost. Yeah.
Okay. Any idea what it is that you like about ghosts?
They scared. Oh, I almost said a curse, but we can say curses.
Yes, you can.
They scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, there is something like otherworldly and paranormal and just like intangible about ghosts that are scary, especially because I guess the lore that comes with most of them is they can either touch or affect you in some way, but usually they're intangible to you. So it's that whole separation of they can hurt you, you can't do anything to them.
Yeah, and they can be anywhere, right? And they sort of sneak up on you, and you see something out of the corner of your eye, or you feel a chill. And usually, they're dangerous, even though they might not hurt you physically. Like often, the ghosts are here because they have some kind of unfinished business. And in the story, if it's a happening to you in real life or in a fictional story, the character, you get roped into that unfinished business. So they sort of draw you in. Yeah, you can't, they're not easy to escape, I think. For
Christopher Pike, any particular book stand out to you?
Let's see. What was the best Christopher Pike book? I just reread. Oh, hold on one second, because now I'm blanking on the title. Road to Nowhere is a good one. I read all of them. There's the Remember Me books. There's like sad ghosts. I do like a sad ghost, but that didn't appeal to me as much at the time. I think I really loved those books too because they sort of treated their readers, even though they're young adult readers, as grown-ups. And the characters were really getting into it. There was violence and there was like a little bit of sex. And he really used a lot of different kinds of folklore and stories. I mean, The Midnight Club was great. I have sort of like mixed feelings on the adaptation that was just on Netflix, but I really love the book. Although that's another like sad horror. I kind of love sad horror too.
Okay. Sad horror can be fun.
Yeah.
What do you like about sad horror?
God, am I just a sad person maybe? It's a great movie. If we can like move ahead a little bit and like my evolution, my like horror coming of age, because I think, I grew up reading those books and then my reading tastes sort of shifted, but I was still always into horror movies.
Okay.
And one of my favorite movies is The Devil's Backbone, the Guillermo del Toro movie. Have you seen that one? It's Spanish.
Think I have. Yeah. Is that the one with the little boy?
Yeah. Now that is a ghost. Oh man. It's a Spanish language movie and it takes place during the Spanish Civil War that, to be honest, I still don't entirely understand.
Okay. Then I have seen this one, I think. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a ghost in that is pretty scary, but he's a ghost that you end up really, he's been wronged like many ghosts. Mm-hmm. And I ended up feeling sort of like, protective of him. And so it's a kind of story that it scares you, but it also, draws on some other, really like fundamental sort of, instincts and urges we have about like justice and protection. Children in danger is always like a good trigger to get for investment. I really like that movie a lot. That's one of my favorites.
Okay. How old were you when you saw that?
I saw it when it came out, which I think was about 20 years ago. I have to like give away how old I am, but I guess that's fine. So I think it came out when I was in college.
Okay, so I'll move that down to the adult section.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we're really going year by year.
Well,
or era by era.
Era by era.
So we can bounce around.
Mm-hmm.
I like to try to put things in context so that I can understand if there's like growth or something like that in a particular area.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't like really charted my horror evolution that much. I think when I was in high school, middle school and high school, I watched like every horror movie you could get from Blockbuster. Mm. That was like Friday night and Saturday night.
You would not be the only one.
Yeah. So like I loved like a B movie. I also loved like, I don't know how you guys feel about this. Like, how do you feel about the term elevated horror, smart horror?
I like it. I'm a fan. It's it is a charged word these days, but I am a fan.
Yeah. I mean, I love all of that, those sorts of like films too, but
like all the A23 stuff kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think A24.
A24. Close enough.
Same thing.
25.
You're thinking assemblage 23. We probably had that conversation not too long ago.
Yeah.
I kind of think even B movie kind of horror has something really smart at its core because, all horror is really about, our biggest fears and also how, society sort of constructs and maintains itself. And what is safe and what isn't, who is safe, who isn't, how we should behave, how we should act, what our expected roles are, and what happens when we transgress. So I tend to think even like the goofiest of horror has something sort of, intelligent there at its core. But yeah, so I watch like every horror movie from A to Z.
Okay. No, you're right though. Like even films like Tucker and Dale, it has some intelligence to it. Like there's that underlying satire of, oh, these kids are actually in essence killing themselves because they don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Going back to Anne Rice, what any particular book or scene in the book stand out to you?
Yeah. So my favorite Anne Rice was always The Witching Hour.
Okay.
I like the vampires. Don't get me wrong; like they're good. I'm watching the most recent Interview with the Vampire adaptation now.
Oh yeah, the show.
How
was that?
I like it. I wasn't the biggest fan of the original film. I just didn't think Tom Cruise was like a good Lestat. And Rice really liked his performance and thought Tom Cruise was perfect. I just thought it was a little like silly.
My gut was that it was a little too clean, but then at the same time, I could also see, if you're upper class society, that maybe it was fitting. I don't know, but
yeah, I don't know.
The
maybe
vibe I got from him wasn't as clean as portrayed in that movie. But
maybe he's also just like always Tom Cruise.
Well,
so he was just like Tom Cruise with like a lot of like pancake makeup and like a ponytail and fangs.
Lestat, get off your motorcycle. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I remember the ponytail more than the fangs. So that's really saying something about that performance.
When you remember a ponytail more than the fangs on a vampire, that says something.
Yeah, but I loved The Witching Hour. It's an epic book. I think there are 3 books in this series, and like the second 2 are fine, I guess. I don't remember. The first one's really good. It's like 1,000 pages, and it includes a whole family history. So they're the family of witches in New Orleans, and in this beautiful, atmospheric house, which was actually based on her house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which when I've been to New Orleans many times, and I always like to walk by and like wave to her house and imagine the character who was at the beginning of the book. There's one character who's always sitting on the porch in a rocking chair.
So cool.
Yeah. So, and that's a book also that makes such a great use of place, as like all of her work does, because she's such a New Orleans author. And that's something that I've, started to really try to do in my own work. It's hard for Pennsylvania to compete with New Orleans in terms of atmosphere, but I'm trying to turn it up and like really find that mid-Atlantic horror. So even now it's something I look back and I can really appreciate that about her work.
Yeah, she's kind of got that built-in environment. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but is Pennsylvania the location of the town that doesn't stop burning?
Correct.
Yes.
There you go. Yes, you got that.
We do. Is that... Oh, I'm forgetting. It's not Intercourse. We also have a town called Intercourse.
Yes.
There's a lot of weird stuff. I didn't mean to talk bad about my home state or actually Commonwealth. There's a lot of weird stuff here, including Albatwitches, which I can tell you about later too.
Yeah, I looked those up. So they're basically a skinny ginger Bigfoot.
Yeah, I kind of think of them as like a kind of like mini Bigfoot. That they're called Albatwitches because they're known for throwing apples at people because people are aggravating to them, and they're like, that's their defense mechanism. The Albatwitches in my story are a little different. I tried to like imagine, these like cryptids that have a society that are kind of in a very uneasy truce with humans. So yeah, there's like a lot of good stuff in Pennsylvania too. I mean, we have, Edgar Allan Poe is here. I think he wrote The Raven here. But we're in a fight with Baltimore over Edgar Allan Poe, just like we're also in a fight with Boston over Ben Franklin.
I think they can keep Ben Franklin. He's a nobody.
Really? We actually have a guy here. I'm never sure if he's like paid by the city or he's just a guy, but he's dressed up like Ben Franklin all the time. And you can like see him on the bus. And then I found out Boston also has a Ben Franklin impersonator. So I don't know. I think there's like a cage fight in the future.
Yes.
Ben Franklin versus Ben Franklin.
At the Octagon.
I'll totally watch that. I would pay to watch that.
Nice. So going back to the witching hour, was it, you mentioned the family history of witches and the atmospheric house. Was there anything else about that story that really stood out to you?
Well, it's funny. I think those are the things that have sort of stayed with me in my own work. So, maybe at the time, I'm not sure what else grabbed me, but that I think turned out to be influential. Yeah. I also love a haunted house, and that's very tricky in fiction too, because I've struggled a lot with characters who are stuck in houses, and there's only so much you can do in a house. Right. Yeah. So she did a really good job of using her haunted mansion.
Well, that's why they disappear for a while, because you get bored.
Yeah.
Let's see. Did you participate in Halloween as a kid?
You know what? I am not great at Halloween. I love Halloween, but I don't love dressing up.
Okay.
Last year, I finally realized one of my dreams of really decorating for Halloween, and we turned our front lawn into a haunted tiki room.
Okay. That's something different.
Yeah, something different. We had all our skeletons, and they were decked out with leis, and they had drinks, and I set up a little tiki hut to give out candy, and I got some skeleton mermaids. So right now it's October 1st. We just got all our skeletons out of the garage. Yep. And I'm like, damn, I have a lot of skeleton mermaids. And I'm trying to think of if, we can sort of turn it into a different theme, or if this is just what our house is now. It is just a haunted tiki room, which is maybe also fine.
Very nice. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. That works year round.
Yeah. We got 3 big life-size skeletons, and then we just never took them inside. So they have been living in our backyard in different positions, on the chairs. We have a hammock, so they were in the hammock. At one point we have this patch of ivy, and one of them was just in the ivy, which was kind of scary actually.
Yeah, that's a great place for one. Ooh, finally
we brought them in August, which did not even make sense because here we are and it's October. Right. So they're all coming out again. I guess we're that house.
Yeah, can relate. I have a couple of skeletons that stay up year round, including one that Steve actually gifted to me on Christmas one year, I think.
I think so.
You won't even know it's a skeleton because it's a fully clothed skeleton and then also wrapped in garbage bags.
So
it's my body buddy.
You just see the skull?
No, you just see a human shaped garbage bag.
It looks like a human wrapped up in a body bag.
Have you ever gotten a visit from law enforcement?
Well, it's on the back porch, but imagine if I put it. You know what? I might put it on the front porch this year.
Do you want to visit?
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I've lived in this neighborhood for 3 years now, and I haven't seen any of the local police. I figure this is a way to suss them out. Hey, officer. Yeah, no, I'm not doing anything illegal. I just want to say hi. This is how I got you.
Yeah, that was just the invitation. I think that's a great birthday present. Another thing that we do is we sort of recognize Halloween at Christmas because maybe you know this, but Christmas is a big ghost story occasion, especially in England historically.
Well, yeah, Scrooge.
Yeah, exactly. Scrooge, I think the BBC still does a Christmas or a ghost story every year. So we always have a ghost story party at our house around Christmas time and invite friends over and tell ghost stories and, keep the spooky season alive.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
Did you have any scary dreams when you were a kid?
Scary dreams?
Or repeating dreams?
Oh, yes. I have scary repeating dreams now.
We'll get to that.
I don't remember from childhood, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time in real life that you were scared of something as a child?
I'm scared all the time.
Okay.
That's probably why I enjoy. This is why horror makes me happy, because it's very cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
flipping that question around, was there ever a time in your childhood when you felt completely calm or safe or at bliss?
Well, I had a good childhood. Okay. Even though I said I was scared all the time, I'm just neurotic. So I think I always felt safe at home. Like, I'm very lucky to have had that experience, except in the basement, obviously. And it was a totally fine basement, but basements in general are like cursed places.
They are.
Yeah.
Dark and spooky.
I don't like it when everybody else is asleep and I'm awake still to this day. Like, that is not comfortable for me. There's just something not right about that.
And okay, so the next two questions, they're also paired, but I'm going to start on the negative so it can end on the positive.
Okay.
Do you remember the first person you hurt?
Oh, first was probably my little sister.
Yeah, no, it's usually siblings.
I hope she doesn't listen to this. Maybe she should, and we can like work through it.
See, it's a cathartic show, Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember anything specific, and I don't think I bullied her any worse than most older siblings. But I gave her a hard time for sure.
Of course. Do you remember the first person you helped?
Well, it would be nice if it was her too, but I don't know. I could make up for it. I mean, right. I have two kids now, and the older one gives the younger one a hard time, but she's also there for her when she's upset or has school problems. So, maybe it was.
Such is the sibling life.
I know, it's very fraught. It's wild to just watch it unfold.
Best friend and best enemy at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So some of our guests have reported that there was a dividing line in their childhood where before this dividing line they were terrified by horror, and then after this dividing line they were now finding enjoyment in it. At least from what you were describing, it sounds like there was always pleasure. So I'm asking, was there that kind of dividing line, and was there something before that we haven't talked about? Or was it always pleasure?
You know what? Now I'm digging deep into my memory. I didn't realize this was going to be quite the therapy session that it is, but I appreciate it. Yeah. So like I said before, I always remember enjoying scary stories, but here's the thing. Okay. I have an early memory of catching Night of the Living Dead on TV.
Okay.
When I was definitely too young for that. And I don't know how old I was, but I think I must have been pretty small, maybe 5 or 6. Where were my parents, by the way? I don't know. But that movie, it wasn't the original, because I remember it was in color, and I have this vivid memory of a zombie eating somebody's head, just biting right into their skull. And that was it for that person. Their eyes kind of roll up, but they can't get away. That really scared me. And for months and months, I could not, I was scared to sleep alone. I was could see that image. I think aside from that, I always, and I love zombies now, weirdly, but aside from that, I always enjoyed the scary stories because they're thrilling. And, like I said, for someone who had some anxiety or fears, they really help you work through that and get it out of your system a little bit, channel it,
They do.
It's funny that when you were talking about Night of the Living Dead, you made this comment of, I don't know where my parents were.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if maybe they were asleep, and maybe that's tied to what you just said a moment ago about being afraid when you're in the house awake and everybody else is asleep.
Yeah, the two could be related.
It could be. I don't know. I think I was maybe too young for that, but it also could have been that I changed the channel and saw it for 3 minutes. I don't know. In my memory, I feel I spent a lot of time with those zombies, but
I was thinking maybe they left the TV on and fell asleep, and you just happened to wake up, and
it could be
one of those moments.
I've never asked them; they wouldn't remember anyway. Where were you on this day?
Right.
Decades ago, yeah.
Get the detective swinging overhead lamp too. Where were you?
Where were you? I'm going to go online and try to find an old TV guide. And when was, Night of the Living Dead on network?
Right. Moving into teenage years, what were some of your favorite scary stories or books or movies during your teenage years?
Yeah, my teenage years, I don't think I was reading a lot of horror. I was reading a lot of I'll be honest. I was reading like Jack Kerouac. Oh my God. But
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense. That's like teen literature.
Absolutely. And then, just a lot of other sort of like mainstream and literary fiction, although I always like appreciated, magical realism and speculative. I didn't know that term. Maybe that wasn't a term then, speculative literature, but I always stayed there. So I think in high school, it was really more of like horror film that was cooking my brain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything jump out to you?
I don't know I think that was just like a period in my life where I was like, what you're just saying before we started recording, garbage in, garbage out for computers.
Yeah.
That was sort of my head, just like, watching everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you didn't participate in Halloween as a teen then. I
didn't really. I was still in my sleepover era. I mean, I spent a lot of time with the Ouija board. Mm-hmm. Sort of games like that for sure.
Okay. Let's see. So we said no for Halloween. Any particularly scary dreams or recurring dreams as a teen?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything particularly scary happen in real life as a teen?
Well, I don't know. I feel like adolescence is like truly harrowing. I think
that is not an uncommon response. A lot of people are like, just teens in general.
Existence, going to school every day, cliques.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm trying to remember, when did The Craft come out? Because I definitely loved that movie. Hold on, I'm going to look it up.
Would have been 90s.
Gotta be 90 something.
Yeah. So maybe that was when I was in high school too, I think. So I definitely I loved that movie. I got to show it to my daughter, who is not in high school yet, but I was excited to show it to her. And I was like, what do you think? She's like, it's fine. I was like, okay.
That's like one of the most insulting answers you can get. Like, it's fine. What?
My favorite thing ever.
I know. I know. My husband's still battling with her because he's the Star Wars person. So he tries to watch all the Star Wars. But you can't project too much on your kids. It's nice if they can enjoy what you enjoyed, but don't get your hopes up. They're their own people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what did you like about The Craft?
I like those badass bitches. I like some high school girls that are just total weirdos, but I think a lot of what's attractive about the figure of the witch is also a desire for power. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you feel really powerless when you're a kid. I don't know. I still feel pretty powerless. It's just how life is. So the idea that you could, sort of gain some power over your circumstances is really appealing. But I think also the idea of the coven is very appealing. And maybe that's what I also liked about The Witching Hour, the Anne Rice book, and that family, although they were quite dysfunctional. But the idea that you had people who were just always on your side, that you could trust absolutely, and that they understood you. I mean, that's also a prime time for feeling misunderstood. So I always, would love to have a coven. I'd love to have a coven now. I guess
everybody needs a coven.
Yeah, I'll share my Instagram later. If you want to start a coven, DM me.
Just let me know.
Let me know. Okay. I'm taking applications.
Yeah, right. Actually, being in or near Philly, I'm sure there are a couple already in progress.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Let's see. Any particular moments in your teens when you felt completely calm or safe or bliss?
No.
Okay.
Also, not an uncommon answer like that. No, it was teens. No,
maybe, probably there was one or two times. That was a lot of those were years of turmoil for me. But I did have good friends. I did have my own little covens, even if we didn't have any magical powers. So. It's funny. I keep thinking about your questions, keep making me think about the sleepovers that I had with my friends and how those were really safe spaces, even though they were also, the spaces where we might be watching scary movies or playing with a Ouija board.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ooh, would you ever do light as a feather, stiff as a board?
Oh, yeah, of course. It works.
Yeah, actually, that led into the next question that I wanted to ask, which is, did you have friends in your teens that were fans of horror? Or like, was it just what you just mentioned here? Like, because that's a typical sleepover thing to do.
Yeah.
But were any of your friends in those years actually fans of horror?
I don't think anyone was like a hardcore, like horror is my identity kind of person. I don't think, I really was either. I feel like I missed out on my, goth opportunities, though, maybe it's not too late.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. I mean, if I could go back to high school, I would just like go full goth. But instead, I was kind of like a secret goth. Like on the outside, you were like, oh, is she like a mathlete? But on the inside, my soul was goth.
I know the feeling. Like I used to live in Tampa, which is where Chris is, and there's a club there called the Masquerade. Or actually, now I'm thinking the Castle. I'm mixing the two up.
Yes.
And it's kind of funny because I used to like going in there, and I'd be going in there wearing shorts and a t-shirt, but they'd be like khaki shorts, like white t-shirt. Shorts. Yeah, exactly. I didn't care. But I just enjoyed
and they don't
the
care.
atmosphere.
They accept all kinds of.
Well, it was kind of funny because people would give me a look and be like, I don't know if I trust you, which is fair because I actually did see some pretty bullshit stuff happen there. But
it seems like a lot of the culture is also about, your dress and makeup. And like I was saying earlier, that I was never a costume person. So, and even like, now I'm very happy just in my athleisure. Yeah.
You can do what you want.
Yeah.
Moving into adulthood then. So you mentioned The Devil's Backbone. Anything else stand out to you in your adult years? You mentioned B-movies and elevated horror. Once
I got into college, I really started thinking about horror and ghost stories, especially, and in new ways. That's when I started reading Gothic literature. Not goth as in the black lipstick, but as in like the 18th century,
Visigoths. The OGs.
Books like, I think Frankenstein counts, but also earlier, like, the Anne Radcliffe books or the Matthew Lewis books. I was reading them as part of my, studies as an English major. I ended up writing my thesis on those books, and they really influenced my first novel, The Angel of Losses, even though I don't think people really think of that as a horror book or a Gothic book. Like, I definitely do, because it's about family legacies that you can't escape, and the burdens of inheritance and family curses, and was really influenced by Gothic literature. So that's when I started to think about horror in a more sort of sophisticated way. What are these kinds of stories and tropes really getting at, socially and emotionally?
Okay. Let's see. You mentioned Radcliffe. There was another author, but I wasn't able to write it down in time.
Matthew Lewis.
Anything you particularly remember about his work?
Yes. So he wrote The Monk, which is one of the, more famous Gothic novels. And it's just about like an evil monk. So horror really tells you what people in your era are afraid of. There are a lot of narratives about this when you look at like cinema, right? And Godzilla is, we're all afraid of like the nuclear bomb. And then 28 Days Later is we're all afraid of AIDS or other viruses, right? And in the 18th century, the British were like really afraid of Catholics. So a lot of it, so the monk is like the evil monk. You get a lot of evil Italians in British literature of that time, which,
I mean, there was this whole Inquisition thing, and the Catholic Church was a formidable force back then. It is understandable to be afraid.
Yeah, and also that was just like how they defined their society and nationality. We are not Catholic, and so anything that is attacking Britishness is frightening. which is, it's just fascinating to think of how like fragile our feelings are when it comes to nationality and how those are exploited. I mean, even, now that's not a thing that has gone away. So yeah, that was like a real window into what these kinds of stories can do and what they can explore and reveal.
I find like as I get further and further into horror fandom, if you will, those kind of things really intrigue me more is the things that are rooted in real evil and real hate, like because it really did and can happen if it's in present tense.
Yeah.
For adult years, do you remember the last person you
last person I hurt?
Yep.
Oh,
last person you hurt.
So I'm a teacher.
Okay.
I'm a teacher, and I teach fiction on the college level. And I have I don't know if I heard her. This is really staying with me. I have a new student, and I was working with her on a story. And after I got off the phone with her, I was like, oh, I think I went really hard on this story. And I wrote to her later, and I was like, tried to check in and be encouraging, because I always want to be encouraging. My goal is not to shut people down or hurt people at all. But even though it's always difficult to receive feedback, it's still difficult for me too. That's just how it is. But I always just want to be encouraging and help people think about their stories in new ways. And I'm worried I did not do that with her. I mean, who knows? Maybe she's totally fine and brushed it off. But I've been worried the last month. It's been weighing on me.
Yeah.
You never know how. Sorry, you're going to say something, Chris?
I was going to say, like, those self-fabricated guilt moments where you're just like, oh, was I too hard on them? Was I too mean? And very likely the real truth is they're just like, bad grade, whatever.
Yeah. She's obviously like busy, and she's not thinking about me every day. She shouldn't be. I mean, that would be a waste of her time. So I can't really say if I hurt her or not, but I'm worried that I discouraged her.
Well,
I would say maybe that's an amalgamation of the two questions. When's the last person you hurt? When's the last person you helped?
Was thinking
maybe you did both.
Yeah, I hope it was ultimately helpful.
Other than that, is there anybody else in mind that jumps to mind when I asked the last person you helped?
Yeah, you know what? I help my kids every day. Every day of their lives, I help them. Go. And that's an easy one. Do they even appreciate it?
Within earshot?
Hold on.
Subconsciously.
Let me open all the doors and shout that again. But in addition to them, it's really, it just makes me think of like my writer community too, because so many people helped me and continue to help me, reading my work and giving me feedback and giving me advice. And I really try to do the same for people whenever I can, so if that means like reading a story and giving you feedback, or looking at your query letter, or just talking about the publishing industry and like what should your strategies be, or what does this mean? I always try to be there for my friends and former students, or just contacts who are out there in the world, because I'm so grateful for all the people who have given their time to help me.
Understood.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think we had briefly touched on you said that you had some reoccurring dreams as an adult.
Oh yeah. I actually just wrote an essay about that touches on this. I used to have recurring dreams that I was visiting with my grandfather who had passed away. Mm-hmm. And that actually became one of the inspirations for my first book, The Angel of Losses. The character in that book has dreams where she's visiting with her grandfather. And I was writing about that because I was thinking about all the ways that our, writing and storytelling can sometimes feel uncanny and reveal things about our lives, or sometimes it even seems to predict the future. That's my experience. Mm. So I've been thinking about those dreams. I don't have them anymore. Maybe if they were ever real in some way, maybe that means he's finally moved on. He's found something better to do than hang around in my dreams. I have on a totally different kind of recurring nightmare. I do have, my nightmares are always about being chased. Sometimes with guns. Guns scare me a lot. So yeah, when I have recurring nightmares, it's often about like being chased. I'm not very fast. I was at the gym this morning. I can barely keep up. I'm just a very slow person constitutionally. So if anyone tries to chase me, I am really in trouble.
Can relate.
Yeah.
For some reason, I used to ride my bike a lot when I was a kid, and I can ride a bike like nobody's business. But running, I have never been able to find a good stride. Like I can run for like a block, and I am so winded I could pass out.
I am not a runner.
I can't find my stride, and people have tried to show me and teach me, and just doesn't work.
I don't know what's wrong with you. I can run 5 miles in 2 minutes. Yeah, definitely not a pack-a-day smoker, and I would just give up after about 30 feet, probably. Yeah, I cannot run either.
So next time I come to Florida, I'll bring the stopwatch.
Yeah, right. Bring a maybe a nebulizer too.
Crap. What's the word? I was gonna say a cot, but
inhaler.
No, what's the shit? The thing that two people carry that someone would
a stretcher.
On. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. Bring one of those. You will need a stretcher.
Has anything actually terrified you as in real life as an adult?
Not to make it too real. I am so terrified of climate change right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there something with that in the recent news? Because I've been hearing a lot more like prepper things coming up, and like did another large chunk fall off the Arctic shelf?
New York flooded, something terrible.
Yeah, I saw a video of that. That was awful.
Which I think is also, it's not just that it was a very intense storm, but also they have some infrastructure problems that, they have not updated their infrastructure. So I think it's a combination of things, but it sure did look apocalyptic. We got very bad Canadian wildfire smoke here in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
I guess it was like the beginning of the summer. We had a couple nights that were very, very scary. And I'm like, I'm in my house. I'm having trouble breathing, and I don't have any, knock on wood, I have to knock on wood. I don't have any like underlying respiratory conditions, though who knows what COVID left me with, but I was really struggling to breathe, which is not an experience I'm used to, and there's nowhere to go.
Right.
Yeah, that's the other thing I keep thinking of whenever I see like the California wildfires, or I think they were more on Colorado. It's like the ones that take over an entire town. Mm-hmm. There is nothing you can do but abandon your stuff and find shelter.
Yeah, if you can. So, and we've had some very bad storms here. So, yeah, I have never felt quite like my life is in danger, more than have like the last couple of years with the extreme weather that we've had. So that is like my big fear right now.
Yeah. No, it's totally a real, understandable, real life fear when the entire thing that you live on could break.
Yes.
Yeah, we got. I'm currently living in Ohio, and we got some of that smoke from Canada here as well. It was not
really that far down, huh?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And speaking of the flooding in New York, it's not just New York; it was New Jersey as well, because I have a friend that lives there, and we were talking about that. And you were saying, some of your concern was the infrastructure in New York. It's not just the infrastructure in New Jersey. They were getting so much rain that they actually had to open up certain dams to keep the reservoirs from being damaged.
Wow.
Well, that's terrifying.
Yeah. So they had to intentionally flood some areas to maintain the structure of the reservoir. Yeah.
And it happens so fast. You can't really prepare. You might know a storm is coming, but you don't know how bad it's going to get until it's, it's too late to escape the effects of it sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's that thing with the flooding is that it's often delayed because it takes time for that water to gather. But then once it's gathered, like you say, it's immediate. It's flash flood. So, flipping that question around again, was there ever a time in your adult life when you felt completely calm or safe or bliss?
Yes. What's funny is that I don't think it's just me. I think this is a human thing. The bad stuff stays with us more than the good stuff. Mm-hmm. I think of that also, we have to remind ourselves that with like book reviews and things like that. You tend to remember that stuff more strongly than, the positive feedback you get sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, again, just to think of like my home, which has always felt like a very safe and calm place. And then, that has changed because of things like the wildfire smoke and the bad storms that we've had. And that's really been a tough thing that I've been dealing with the last couple of years, is being like, okay, the place that was safe to me. I mean, it's even during the pandemic, where it was like a home was where you were safe. It's also maybe where you felt, kind of stuck and who knows what other kind of like difficult things, because it's not easy being home all the time either, though I am normally a homebody kind of person. But yeah, I feel like the last couple of years I've sort of like lost my safe place a little bit, and that's really tough. But I'm very happy to be on my couch in front of the fireplace with my family, watch those kids I help all the time, watching Survivor, because they don't watch horror movies. But when they're gone, I'm very happy with the fireplace on, watching the new Interview with the Vampire series.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the next two questions I'm going to give you at the same time, because it could be the same answer for both, or it could be two different answers.
Mm-hmm.
What movie have you watched more times than any other? And what would you say is your favorite movie?
Okay. So I think I have thought, because I've thought about this a little bit. I think the movie that I have seen more than any other movie is not a horror movie, but it's Bend It Like Beckham, the soccer movie, the British soccer movie. I don't know why. I like it a lot. I don't know how it's come out to be the movie I've watched the most.
Like Jeff Beckham or whatever his name is, the guy who's married to Posh Spice.
Yes.
It's not. No, it's not.
It's not Jeff.
It's not
David Beckham.
David Beckham.
Yes. Yes, that. My name is Jeff.
Yeah, he's not actually. It's not about. It's not about him, but it's about these two teenage girls. They just want to play football. They don't call it soccer, right? But like girls don't play football. This is also, I think, from the late 90s. But they triumph, and then in the end, they see Posh and Bex in the airport. Spoiler. So I've seen that movie a million times, but I think the horror movie I've seen the most is probably Shaun of the Dead. I love that movie. Come back to zombies. I love that movie. I don't usually gravitate towards the horror comedies, but that's such a good one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Did you say that one was your favorite or tied for?
That's the one I probably watched the most. When I think of what's my favorite horror movie, I would also say the zombie movie.
No, not favorite horror. Favorite.
Oh, just any favorite movie.
Yeah, in general.
You know what? It would. Okay, I'll tell you. So, okay, my favorite. It's hard to say just one. So, can I give you a few that are just like the top tier? Yeah. So, the one that comes to mind that isn't horror is Wonder Boys, which is it's Michael Douglas, and he plays a writer, a professor. I think it's I don't know if they name it, but it's the University of Pittsburgh basically, and it takes place over a weekend during their writer festival. And Tobey Maguire is his troubled student, and Robert Downey Jr. is his agent, and he's trying to finish his book. And I'm not usually one for like media about writers; it just gets to be very navel-gazy. But this one is really good and funny and down to earth. So that's one of my top movies. It's not 100% accurate in every way, probably, but I think it captures that sort of writer world best from anything I've seen. Yeah. But my other favorite movies that are horror movies are 28 Days Later.
It's a good one.
That's a good one. And The Changeling, the 1980 The Changeling. You have to watch it.
Yes.
That's another one with like a child ghost. I love a ghost that, again, is sort of like that's terrifying, but also sympathetic.
Ooh, wanted to bring this up earlier when you mentioned you were into ghost stories. If you have not seen it, definitely recommend We Are Still Here. Is it?
Oh, I don't know that one. Is that new?
Semi-new, like the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
It's like a different take on a ghost story. It's really good.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out. Yeah. I like The Others a lot. Have you seen, you've probably seen that one, the Nicole Kidman one.
That was my answer for my interview for the one that I've seen the most times because, fun story, I used to be a projectionist and the film for the others stuck to itself. So we had to have someone go up there in the projection booth and babysit it. Otherwise, it would stick to itself and it would just throw the whole film on the floor.
Yeah.
So I watched the others a couple times.
Well, I think if you had to watch a movie, over and over and over again, that's probably a better one to watch.
Yeah. It gave a different viewing angle too when rewatching it because there's that twist at the end. So when it gives it a different a feel.
Yeah, it's a good twist.
I think so.
Yeah.
What did you like about 28 Days Later?
Let me go back in time to when I first saw it. I remember I saw it this was another movie I saw in college on campus. It was screened I think there was like a cinema on campus. And it's a scary movie. It was unexpected because we were used to sort of the slow zombies. Mm-hmm. I know that's kind of maybe it's not anymore. At the time, it was very controversial. Like, can you even call them zombies if they're fast?
Mm-hmm. They're infected.
Yeah, right. They're the infected. Like, okay, whatever. I mean, slow zombies are good. Fast zombies are good. Like,
Yeah, they're both good.
Yeah, they're both good. But yeah, it was surprising. I mean, Danny Boyle's such a good filmmaker, so it's just a very effective movie. And I also, the characters are really good and they feel very authentic. And where it goes at the end with the military and how they're treating like the two women characters just feels, it takes the horror of it to a whole other level. Like we think we know what to be afraid of, and then it just escalates in a way that was unexpected for me at the time. I mean, I guess this is back to like elevated horror, right? And you can think about like older slashers where the teenage girls or the topless girls are going to get knifed, and the misogyny of it is like very on the surface. And I think 28 Days Later did it in a very careful and smart, and again a way that felt very true to life. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about the real scary horror things being like those that are real threats in real life, and I think they were ahead of their time with that film. It's just such a good movie.
Do you see any common threads about what kind of horror you like? Cannibalism, occult, metaphysical?
So the only kind of horror that I tend not to watch, I said I'm not like huge into gory stuff, but I do like it sometimes. I don't have an aversion to it. The horror that scares me the most is the home invasion horror. Ooh, that really gets me. I usually try to avoid those movies. Although there was a really good one I watched recently that I did enjoy. I think it was called Ready or Not.
So good.
Yeah. And I
love everything Samara Weaving is in.
Yes, she's so good. And I probably wouldn't have watched it. Also, it needs a better title, really, because it's not such a generic title. But a friend was like, no, you have to watch it. I'm really glad she told me to watch it because I did really like it. I love occult horror. I love possession movies and exorcism movies, which is kind of funny because I'm not Catholic or Christian. So like I've never really been afraid of the devil, and I'm still not. So those movies don't really scare me, but maybe that's why. They're
still intriguing.
They're still so intriguing. And maybe that's why I like them too, because I'm not, if I watch a home invasion movie, I'm not going to sleep. Or if I watch The Ring, really traumatized me, even though I love that movie. But I could watch like a million devil movies and just like sleep like a baby.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I did try to watch that new Russell Crowe, The Pope's Exorcist.
The Pope's
I didn't make it through. He's got an accent. I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to give it a good college try, but I didn't make it.
I love Constantine. That's a great exorcism movie. They keep saying they're going to make a sequel.
I have been hearing that. They still say they're going to do it, and they're going to bring Keanu back. He
says he wants to do it. So I know he's on the upswing right now, or has been for a little while. So maybe they'll finally do it.
Yeah, maybe after he's done with John Wick 5, 6, and 7.
You're right.
I know.
John Wick 23.
And you know what? I'll still go see it. I really like those movies a lot too.
Stop getting dogs, dude.
There's something a little horror about that with like the high table, like that sort of conspiracy culty stuff in the movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So this would be a place where we start to talk about the common themes that have come up. I'm going to share what at least has come up for me, and then if you think right, you can say that, or if you think I'm wrong, you'd say that, or if you think there's something in addition to what I've said that you want to add, feel free.
Oh my gosh. I feel like this is like my psychological assessment. I'm going to get like a diagnosis at the end.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you forgot that part of the preamble at the beginning, Steve. This is not meant to be a therapy session or whatever.
You're right. I did forget to say that.
I mean, I feel like I'm going to get a code to give to my insurance company.
You're right.
Hey, we could start doing that. That's a thing.
Oh, God.
But no, we usually also preface the interview with just saying, if there are any questions you don't want to answer, pass is always an option.
Okay.
Right.
No,
we do try to like address the fact that it is a bit half therapy, half horror interest.
Right.
That's part of it.
Yeah,
okay, all right.
Half psychology, half horror.
Hit me with your assessment.
So really, it sounds like so there's a couple different things, but I think it's all coming up under empowerment and or issues about power imbalances, particularly with society and families. The things that have come up a number of times are things about how society structures itself, what society is afraid of, our place in society, even bend it like Beckham, girls who want to play soccer, but girls aren't supposed to play soccer.
You're so right.
And then the changeling and ghost stuff, terrifying but sympathetic. There's this part of what was it you said? There was something about family duty or expectations,
like legacies and inheritance.
Right.
That sort of thing.
That can't be escaped from, or not easy to be escaped from. And then you getting roped into that. So, but like I said, that also, I think, kind of falls under social expectations and empowerment or lack of empowerment in relation to that. I
mean, you got me. And even the changeling, like I don't want to give too much away about the changeling, but a lot of the 1980 movie, a lot of that is also about, it starts off as sort of a simple ghost story. There's some kind of, not even an apparition, but like there's something in the house. Someone is here. Who is it? But when you find out who it is and get into it, a lot of it is also about, justice and injustice that's been done because of who we value in society and who we think we can throw away, which is maybe part of the devil's backbone too. And yeah, I'm like very fascinated with power. And it makes me think of really what Saturnalia is about too, because it's about who has power and who doesn't. And a main character who is trying to, find her footing in a society where she's like not on top.
Any idea why it is that speaks to you?
Yeah, because I'm like a social justice warrior at heart.
Okay.
Yeah, I care about fairness, and I care about how we treat people and who is marginalized, and who has power and how they wield it. And I think that's what a lot of horror is just really about, and who counts as fully human. We see that even in monster stories. That's also there, the ghosts too, because ghosts are scary because they challenge our ideas of who is a person and who isn't, right? Even like how, being alive or not being alive. And I think it's important to use our storytelling to not just exploit our, socialized ideas about who counts as human just for thrills and fear, but also to sort of challenge them and be like, why is this figure scary? Is it because there's something inherently wrong with them? Or is it because we've decided that this is a category of being that is different from us, and therefore we don't like them?
Yeah. Put it that way, that tracks.
Yeah.
So why horror? Could you not explore some of these topics in other genres?
Yeah, but then where's the fun in that?
It's more fun. There's your answer.
Yeah, it's more fun. To get back to that question about like, why do some people like horror? And I think it's just, that's sort of like where my taste goes and what my aesthetic is. And you could definitely ask these questions in other types of storytelling, but I think horror is really like uniquely well suited to explore sort of these most important questions that we have as people. And, I love, pushing the genre to do just that.
It is definitely one of the genres that is best suited to exploration, obviously sci-fi being another big one.
Yeah.
I guess you could do Ghosts in Space. That has been partially done.
Could do Ghosts in Space.
Not necessarily well, but that's a whole other conversation. Is there anything that you've thought of that might be relevant that hasn't come up on the call, or something that you thought of earlier that you didn't get a chance to say?
I mentioned my favorites. We went back into my childhood. I got to wax a little bit on the academic stuff. I think that's everything.
Okay.
This has been really fun.
It has.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Our pleasure. And thank you to everybody out there listening. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend.